Open the door to purity. Open the door to purity. Let the breezes blow and trumpet purity over the sea and over the land. Let men understand the voice of cosmic Christ's command. I come to open wide the way, that men without fear may ever say, I am the purity of God. I am the purity of love. I am the purity of joy. I am the purity of faith. I am the purity of grace. I am the purity of hope. I am the purity of faith, and all that God can make of joy and grace combined. Precious one, this day is the day that God hath made, and each day fresh from his hand is an opportunity to express purity, if you will but open your heart and understand that this is the rightful manifestation of the soul of God. So many individuals possess a feeling, gracious ones, of contamination, brought about as the result of the soul's memory of moments when they have not upheld the bonds and bands of purity. We therefore, in our octave of light, long to bring release and relief to mankind whose memories are soiled by the thoughts and the deeds which they have done in a lesser state of illumination, at a time when they did not understand all of the law, or even the portion of the law which they now comprehend. I long then to relieve this day the fears of those men and women who somehow or other cannot adjust to the gentle ministrations of the karmic law. The law of karma, blessed ones, is not intended to act as a lash, to tear apart the soul of men. The law of karma is intended to instruct and to cause mankind to approach the throne of grace without fear, with the clearness of mind and being that will render them able to receive the pure vibratory action of Almighty God. Gracious ones, so often individuals persist year after year in an attitude of self-condemnation. The way to clear the karmic record is not to engage oneself in this questionable indulgence of reviewing the errors of your lifetime or of lifetimes past as snatches of revelation come through to your consciousness. Rather, it is the desire of God that you review the great hopeful possibilities of the future, using the law as reference to establish marks of cosmic desire upon the infinite pathway, where you can see and perceive how that as the law of love is outpictured from day to day in varied manifestations called forth from his heart, you, by reason of your cosmic service, will become a glowing star in the firmament of those way-showers who today are the hope of every age. Certainly, the light, the clear light of the Buddha, like a glorious orb, burns in the sky of spiritual teachers. And beside the Buddha, the manifestation of his star, the Star of David, thrills the world anew year after year and brings to the few devotees who offer their all the renewal of hope like a pulsing unfed flame that never will be extinguished. We then who guard the purity of the universe, are anxious to abolish in man's consciousness the sense of condemnation which constantly evokes these old memories in order to establish within mankind a feeling of hopelessness, so that the same ruts and old patterns will continue to be outpictured, and thus the wonderful graciousness of God will go unrealized, because man, seeing through their own eyes and gazing at the deity, will consider the Most High God as ready to condemn them also. I would reference at this moment the love of Jesus as the woman stood before him, condemned by all those around her for her acts that did not fulfill the Mosaic law. You will recall the master stooped and wrote in the sand, and then gazed up at her and said, after all had fled, "Where are thine accusers, woman?" And she said, "There are none, Lord." And he spake and said, "Neither do I accuse thee. Go and sin no more." There is always the question in the consciousness of those who are prone to repeat the same errors again and again, that perhaps God will weary of the number of times they repeat this error. May I point out to you that the eyes of God are too pure to behold iniquity, and the Lord does not suffer from the depredations of men against their own souls, but the suffering and pain is brought out and brought forth to the individual who commits the error, and thus it can truly, rightly be said that truth and virtue are their own reward, and certainly they are their own reward forevermore. But those who err and outpicture patterns of error will find that this condition also is possessed with a reward for disservice, which is no reward at all, but is the etchings of human pain, mental suffering, criticism by oneself of oneself, bearing no fruit, but often making the heart and mind to be darkened by the concept of impurity. I come then this day determined to eradicate those patterns from the mind and consciousness of mankind. I come determined to speak the inspiring word that will cause you to be forever free from all of those concepts that have held mankind bound. You do not know the weight of condemnation, precious ones, or how the manipulators of the world manipulate individuals because of self-condemnation and cause them to suffer again and again and to do the bidding of those who would be masters of men, simply because they cannot come to the throne of grace and understand that God's purity, while it is not for sale, is a glad free gift of his heart to all who yearn for that purity. Purity, precious ones, is a natural quality of God. It is a quality that floods the universe, and it is responsible for the beautiful pure colors of the rainbow. It is responsible for the clear color of the water when it flows uncontaminated by mortal discard and rubbish. You see, precious ones, men and women must understand that through their consciousness flows, through their own mighty I Am presence, and through their higher mental body, or Holy Christ self, the unbroken stream of God's pure energy, referenced in the book of Revelations as the crystal flowing stream that flows before the throne of God. This is the stream of God's own purity, and it can never be contaminated in the spiritual levels of life, the contamination always occurring as it passes through the nexus of mankind's consciousness, where it is misqualified substance by reason of the impurity lodging in the consciousness of those who ought to understand how that God is not impure, and therefore they ought not to be either. You must understand, precious ones, that the purity of the Christ, which is fairer than the lilies themselves, was a purity of consciousness, and you ought to aspire to that purity even as you aspire to be like him. To be like him is to be possessed of his purity, and to permit his purity to possess you. You cannot have it a one-way street. It must be a two-way street, where you participate in the purity of God, even as he invests his energy in you. When this mutuality of expression, this great cosmic togetherness of your heart with God's heart takes place, it is impossible that the barriers of impurity shall remain in your life. And therefore you may take note and understand, whenever there is the appearance of impurity in your consciousness, that this ought to tell you of the great need to press your heart directly to his own beloved heart and absorb the emanations of his purity. Just as mankind have danger signals upon this planet, alarm systems to warn them when conditions of danger might occur to the planet itself or to buildings upon the planet, there are horns, precious ones, upon your cars and vehicles to warn those who may be in the pathway to stand aside. Then understand that there are also signals which mankind ought to take note of when the forces of shadow and darkness would enclose them round about by finding some means of obtaining entree into their consciousness and thus perverting or subverting that consciousness from its balance of purity to states of criticism, condemnation, and judgment of others or of themselves. This type of manifestation is but an entering wedge which often leads to great episodes of unhappiness, completely contrary to the law of your being and the power of your own mighty I Am presence. Understand then, blessed ones, that if you release yourself to the very God of gods by a determination to express his purity and a determination to abrogate all of the effects of past wrong sowings, you will be taking the first steps that will enable me to come into your world with the mighty divine presence and give you of my momentum of cosmic Christ purity that will help you to sweep aside all those seemingly intangible manifestations in your consciousness which are ever so tangible in providing a hindrance to you, those weights which beset you on every hand and prevent the full manifestation of the resurrection and ascension flames. You must comprehend, most gracious ones, how that individuals are often mere puppets in the game of life. They do not recognize that the power of God is always pouring forth the full purity of the Godhead. But simultaneously with this release of mighty assistance from on high, the negative forces of the world which you dwell in so frequently are also releasing their substance of earthly impurity. Mankind then are caught in the jaws of this situation, and because of mortal ignorance, mankind are often captivated temporarily by the tremendous waves of unhappiness which seize them when they realize that they have erred. David of old did take note of the situation and say, I have sinned. So many individuals have spoken to God, and in their prayers they have said, Lord, I am not worthy. I call to your attention how they are using the power of the I Am to claim unworthiness, when by a simple twist of reversal they could say, correctly so, regardless of the appearances in their consciousness, Lord, I am worthy of thy purity. I would have thy purity surge through me in a great cosmic burst to remove from the screen of my mind, my thoughts and my feelings, every appearance of human vibratory action and all that is impure in substance, thought, or feeling. Replace all that right now with the fullness of the mind of Christ and the mind of God, the manifest power of the resurrection spirit and the ascension flame, that I may enter into the holy of holies of my being and find the power of transmutation taking place to free me forever from all discord that ever has manifested in my world. Precious ones, when you do this, when you enter into this spirit of purity, there is an action that takes place which tends to relieve you as though you had performed a service of violet fire that lasted 10 hours. And by this tremendous manifestation of purity invoked at your command, you can have the full benefit of the cosmic flame of Christ's purity active in your life to assist you, together with a violet transmuting flame, in finding your freedom in this day and age. And when all is said and done, precious ones, although you often are mindful of the group and collective consciousness of those with whom you are associated, whereas you identify also with the nation in which you live and the planet upon which you move, it is ever so essential that you understand that you are an individual door to the very heart of God, and it is absolutely necessary that in the final analysis you and you alone shall pass through that doorway, for no one can pass through that doorway of cosmic Christ purity for you. No one can attain to the manifestation of eternal victory and righteousness. Therefore, I urge upon you that while you are mindful of your brothers upon the pathway and seek to serve them according to the tenets of the Brotherhood and the teachings of the Lords of Samaria, of the holy order of the Hussamarians, that you will also bear in mind the need to be aware individually of the great stream of purity that is your life and can never be requalified by another, in so much as you are solely responsible for that manifestation. I agree that projections may come against you, and the darts of the wicked ones may seem to penetrate your consciousness, causing you distress, but you must pay no attention to these arrows and slings of outrageous fortune, but understand that by opposing you cannot always overcome them, but by accepting the mighty pressure of your own stream of cosmic purity from the heart of God, you are able to do that which you cannot do by the power of mortal resistance and by a feeling in your mind of, oh, I do not want that. Precious ones, to say, oh, I do not want that, to an unwanted condition may be ever so true, but the opposition of that often seems to reverse itself and give you a charge of energy which will bring into your world the very things you do not want. And so many times we find individuals who yearn for purity are manifesting the very opposite quality of that, simply because they are so busy fighting against that which they do not want, that they further entrench and establish that activity within their world by the power of their resistance. I want you therefore to understand that while you ought to resist evil, you must understand the need to affirm the power of good and of God's purity far more than you shall engage in an activity of mere resistance. I do not say that there is never a time when you should completely forget about resistance, for the statement and admonishment of the Master, resist the devil and he shall flee from you, is most effective. It is simply that you must not spend all of your time fighting or beating the air and forget to establish the patterns of purity which are so essential for you to move forward in the scale of progress. You see, beloved ones, when you continue to fight a battle against some force, you may withstand that force and perhaps stop its inroads from coming into your world, but this does not mean, gracious ones, that you are able, by fighting this battle, to necessarily establish patterns of progress which are so essential for your future attainment of the power of purity, so that you can at one given moment invoke the power of purity by a simple word saying, I am purity in action here. I am God's purity established forever. And the stream of light from the very heart of God that embodies all of his purity is flowing through me and establishing round about me the power of invincible cosmic purity, which can never be requalified by the human. By understanding the need for positive reinforcement of the power of right attitude in your own mind, not only will you succeed in invoking purity, but also in invoking other qualities of God, so much so that you will find your world is changed just by the concept of purity. I want you to know that the pure colors which we have and emanate into space are a form of the pastel colors, which so many of you are in love with, and rightly so. For the pastel colors embrace a greater quantity of the purity ray than is focused in the more garish hues, which are often tinged by the auric colors manifesting in mankind's aura and containing the pattern of human anger, the vibratory action of human fear, of death, and of destructive activities. You would do well then to take either the pure electric blue or the pastel hue of the blue and wear it upon your person. Also to understand that the color of red is not to be worn upon your person or around about your homes, but rather the color of a very beautiful pink, which brings to you a manifestation of the love ray from the heart of God and establishes the aspect of pure love within the heart. Even the men, the gentlemen who are assembled here, will find that by choosing the proper color for their neckties and outer garments, they will be enhancing the qualities in their world of spirituality and purity's ray. These outer manifestations will not do this for you alone, precious ones. You will need to let them serve as reminders of the need to establish the mighty light rays of God as focuses within yourself. Therefore, I am sometimes depicted, precious ones, as standing in a great shell, colored somewhat in the manner of a delicate shell pink, with the colors of the rainbow barely peeping through here and there their soft pastel hue. This is but a symbol of the great stream of purity that God emanates out, which he would captivate man with, even as a band shell is intended to capture the vibratory action of the various instruments and pour it out into the audience. So this shell of purity, which men have depicted behind me in their various outpicturings of what they consider my form to be, is a manifestation of a cosmic amphitheater intended to radiate out a feeling of God purity to all life. And this is my will to do, to radiate such purity to mankind that is so charged and supercharged with cosmic love that those who stand within that ray will be filled through and through with the understanding of the love which Jesus and other of the ascended masters have always had for purity. I would like for a moment to digress and say to you that there are many individuals who have descended to great depths of impurity. And when those individuals have made their way back from those cesspools and sewers of human thought and feeling, back to the place where they are able to feel the most comfortable radiation of God's purity, the gratitude that floods their heart is almost simultaneously identified with the gratitude that men feel when they are in a state of consciousness which you call a nightmare, but which in reality is a manifestation of astral substance in their world, and then the individual escapes from that dream trance condition into the world of outer physical reality. How often, blessed ones, individuals have expressed gratitude to at last be awake and not trapped and snared in the vibratory action of those conditions of trance which resemble sleep, but which in reality are astral states of horror, which cause mankind to suffer greatly and be afflicted because of their experiences in the astral realms. Shun these conditions, blessed ones, and understand the need whenever you experience them, if you do, that you must make more decrees to God for purity before you pass into the realm of sleep and into the arms of Morpheus. For you must understand that sleep ought to be an occasion for recharging the vital pure energies of your being. It ought to be a time when the batteries of human life can be literally filled with the purity of the divine presence, and it is necessary before you fall asleep to establish some pattern of upward rising, elevation in consciousness that will lead you by the power of the sacred fire to find those pathways of cosmic penetrability where the spirit of purity can sweep through your finer bodies while you sleep and leave you the blessedness of the childlike ascended master consciousness. This consciousness is so sweet and simple and is indeed of the kingdom of heaven. It is so pure and godlike that it is almost a replica of the consciousness of God himself. This may come as a great surprise to you, but all of the intricate patterns of the universe, precious ones, are composed of the simple geometric expressions which God has actually manifested in triangle, circle, square, parallelogram, and other geometric forms. It is the combination of these forms which makes the complexity of life. And therefore, mankind must understand that the Godhead is simple in manifestation, but complex in its diversification. You must understand, then, that purity and love, while they may seem to be only words, and have often become very trite to mankind because they feel they know all of the mysteries of the Word, are mighty tides of eternal and immortal life, whose intricate inward patterns require aeons of time for angelic beings to decipher. Yet human beings, in the simplicity and ignorance of their own thought and feeling, often feel at a certain age that they know the meaning of love. I tell you, the qualities of God require aeons to decipher by cosmic beings, and therefore certainly it would pay you to learn and relearn again and again many of the teachings which have been handed down to you of Holy Writ. So many individuals will take up a pearl of wisdom, precious ones, or one of the lessons of the Ascended Masters, and feel that by reading it through once they have completed that assignment and will move on to something else. Many of you have found out that the intense radiation patterns in this released material enables you again and again to profit by the tremendous outpicturing of the Ascended Masters. In this connection this afternoon, I feel compelled to say that what you have received at this class is far beyond the understanding of mortal mind. Therefore, I trust that you will not attempt to gorge yourself all at once by every thought, but take those that prove most beneficial to you and will give you the greatest assistance at this given time, and then prepare yourselves to study these releases when they are in print, that thereby you may utilize them to the fullest in your leisure and perfection. Precious ones, God is not crowding you into a niche that He desires you to be in simply in order to satisfy Himself. He often tempers the wind to the shorn lamb, and He is so anxious to give you the fullness of His great love that you will experience the release from all of the impurity of your being which the great law of perfection requires, and have the fullness of His love manifesting in your mind and heart. You have a saying here upon this planet that Rome was not built in a day, yet so many of you seem to feel when dealing with spiritual matters that if you do not overcome all of your afflictions and faults in one given moment, you are simply not living. Precious ones, let me give you the comfort of knowing that we ourselves who are in these higher octaves of light required a terrific amount of time in order to obtain our release from all of the pressures of life that surrounded us. And we are able to give you the fullness of our compassion, encompassing you round about with such love as ought to assist you to the very fullness of your ascension. Yet that which we have to give you is but a portion of the mighty release of your own God presence and the I Am presence within the heart of the great central sun. Do you see then that if we ourselves required such an amount of time in order to obtain our own freedom and purity, do you see then if we are able in our state of development, which is less than the fullness of the Godhead, to understand and look upon you with compassion, that the Godhead Himself looks upon you with the compassion of an infinite Father, and but awaits the release in your being of the stream of purity's acceptance, that will not fear to accept purity for yourself, that will not fear to accept purity now, that will not fear to say, here I am, take me, O God of purity, assimilate me and use me in the matrices of release for the mankind of earth. Let me not only invoke purity for myself, but let me invoke purity for every part of life. Let me not only invoke purity for my family, but for all the family of God neath the canopy of heaven. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, if you only understood how that purity's door is opening wider and wider while I am giving you this release, you would understand that the great orifice of God, the mighty mouth of spiritual purity, is uttering the word, the ancient word, for purity at inner levels, which will charge and charge and charge this place with the essence of divine purity that shall never be erased in 1,000 years if it were never fed again by any life stream upon earth. And yet I am certain that every life stream that hears these words and enters this room from this day henceforward will understand that I am, by the power of light itself, establishing here a great focus of purity, that all may bathe in that focus and understand the benefits of it as a stream of light, greater than the fountain at Lourdes, as a healing fountain, is the spiritual ray of purity which I am affixing in here. Now I call for the child, the incoming child. Let that child be brought in, that I may anoint that child with purity's ray. O Mohandas, thou who wast martyred for the sake of thy great love for purity, I anoint thee by the power of my ray, and I say thou shalt be a pure fountain to the earth, to give the love of brotherhood to mankind, and to establish forever the flame of infinite love. I christen thee in the name of cosmic purity, Aaron Lynn Prophet. So do thou go forth and perform thy service to all mankind. Be thou a focus of purity's flame, and let the earth bow before the flame of purity within thee. I am the goddess of purity, and thou art surrounded by the cross of my white fire purity forever. Peace be unto thee. Won't you please be seated? Ladies and gentlemen, that which has transpired here is an activity of great light, and the light of purity which goeth forth through this class, the thread so bright woven into the tapestry of the substance of this class. As you go to your homes and as you mingle with one another, remember that the goddess of purity has spoken not only to the child, but to the child innocence within thee individually. None of thee, none of thee, none of thee have in the past not been a babe. None of thee, none of thee, none of thee have not been born in purity from the heart of God. None of thee, none of thee, none of thee can say, thou wast not bathed with God's stream of purity one day. Therefore all that has transpired between the innocence of thy beginning, the childlike substance of thyself upon thy mother's knee, and upon the knee of thy cosmic mother, can be forgotten by the soul that is within thee. Wherever thou goest, then remember that thy angel of purity is with thee, and therefore as thou goest to thy homes, to those of you who are here in physical embodiment, I give an angel of purity to go with thee throughout all eternity, and I convey this angel of purity to thee, commending to thee the memory of thy immortal soul in all of its eternal loveliness, the garment of light, the garment of God purity. Ladies and gentlemen, as the goddess of purity, may I wrap my arms around thee with the flame of my love for purity. May I wrap my arms around thee with my hopes that thou wilt understand God's purity. May I wrap my arms around thee forever with the foreverness of the Eternal One, and know that as a sun, purity is expanding tonight all over the world because of this activity of the opening wider and wider of the door of universal purity, the means, the shining pathway back to the heart of God. Ladies and gentlemen, I seal you then with the kiss of Christ's purity upon the substance of thy soul. I thank you. Fear not, O little flock, I come to you this day in the sweetness of celestial understanding of the divine intent, and of how that God seeks to wipe away all tears from the eyes of mankind, and remove from the heart its fear of all conditions. But I am a teacher of righteousness, and this day I must set aright misunderstandings about the great law and its impact upon mankind. Blessed ones, I am the Good Shepherd. But you must understand, our Lord the Mahachohan is the Comforter and the representative of the Holy Spirit to all life. I mention the ministrations of my office, and I mention his purpose, that you may see the diversity that God has used in creating a climate of service to the manifold avenues of life, and understand that all men are not given to know the same things, that all men are not given the same gift, but divers gifts are given to men, that they may serve one or more of these manifold avenues of life. This day, then, I would lovingly express to you all the need to honor the diverse gifts of spiritual magnitude, for in so doing a blight will be removed from the earth, and your understanding will not be clouded by unknowing, but will stand before the sun of holy illumination, accepting the right use of the manifold gifts of life and service. The great white brotherhood exercises its dominion over the many avenues of life, and those who serve have diverse appointments. There is always the tendency on the part of mankind to honor sweetness and love, to honor strength and power, to honor the healing services, for example, and those arts which seem to benefit mankind in a physical way. Therefore many in the past have paid great homage and honor unto me, and to religious leaders, and to those who serve to bring comfort to mankind. These individuals have either been vilified by the multitudes or placed on a pedestal of great respect, whereas those who serve in other avenues have sometimes come in for a less full measure of respect. And yet I plead this day that they be admitted to a place of honor, and that you understand that we all have our place in the great cosmic schema, which makes it possible for all elements of life to be fed by the magnificent grace of our Father which is in heaven. Then the ministrations of song, of musical instruments, of the human voice, come in for a goodly share of approval by mankind for the peace they spread within the heart, for the joy and the power of the angels that they attract, and rightly so. But there are other offices which are given to mankind, which come in for a share of recognition of human needs and of spiritual needs from our standpoint, and we approve of them heartily. I reference here the aspect of identifying with just being a mother of great love to mankind. I reference here parental aspects of responsibility. To be a lovely mother or a lovely father, to bring comfort to your families and to your children, is no less mean an aspect of grace than to be a world teacher, for it merely means, precious ones, either the narrowing or the widening of the circle. And I assure you that a cosmic mother or an earthly mother, both should come in for their share of honor. We would bring honor into the smallest dimension of life, that men should understand the import to feed my sheep. Feed my sheep, then, in every way that the law requires, and understand also how that some men must fulfill the office of the first ray and be directors over organizations, over nations, and over people, assuming the full karmic responsibility, therefore, and wisely administering the law as God does. These should come in, not for a share of spite and human malice, of disrespect and mortal viciousness, but for a share of compassionate understanding of how that when their service is rendered well and to a goodly nation, that the world is made a better place by the ministrations of those who serve in public office. This day, then, on the occasion of this Easter in the year 1966, I desire to transfer a great deal of the attention of mankind from mere religious significance to the religious and spiritual qualities that ought to be expanded in the diverse and manifold functions of various people, so that the kingdom of God may not be deprived of light anywhere or of honor among men. For to render a worthy service in any capacity, be it to sweep the streets of a nation's walks, is to perform a necessary function. And if it be done with grace and dignity and with love and service, it is a means of providing avenues of comfort to the people. And we are concerned with the fact that men should understand that those who serve in offices such as we do, to make known unto mankind the highest spiritual teachings, are in our own way only performing that which we must do because we have been selected and have elected to serve to make God known unto man. But God can be made known unto man in many ways and in diverse offices. And thus the halls of learning, the homes and families, the political centers, the manufacturing centers, and all of the kindred and multiple duties of mankind can be enhanced by Christ's radiance and by awareness of our Father who art in heaven. This day, then, as I make my compassionate plea for understanding and recognition of all the many little offices that bring comfort to life, please understand that we are not asking you to remain always fixed to the seeming little or small, and we are happy to have you aspire to be a world savior yourself, if you wish, and to render the service which we do in time to come. But you must learn to master well the little task that is given you today, that you may be fitted for the greater tasks of tomorrow. And if your dimension be narrow, it can be widened by the admission of God's love in greater power to render a greater service more efficiently and with the depth of understanding that would indeed honor a saint. When you do this, you bring God down into the realm of the small and tiny, and it is no longer a mere room empty of all joy, but it becomes enhanced by our Father's love, and the love expands, and your soul expands with it until the glow ray of God and infinite compassion is spread abroad over the native soil, over the earth element, and over all things which God himself commands, saying, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Admit then the eternal light to your hearts, and expand it this day, and do it in memory of me, wherever you are. Know then that as the great divine director sought to warn, so I come to say, fear not. Think not then that we are diametrically opposed to each other, and that heaven itself is seeking to war with one another. I tell you, nay. But each service is specific to a cause and to the release of mankind from bondage. The great divine director would release mankind from impending threats of doom to a society long in building. I would release you from fear, which might come to you unduly because of over-concern and lack of perspective of these facts. Every master counterbalances the other, and all are needed, and the great white brotherhood is a blending of the majesty of God in myriad services. You require healers, and you have them. You require teachers, and they are there. You require spiritual leaders, and they are here. And you have need of those who serve. I spake long ago unto Martha, and I said unto her, Mary has chosen the better part. Today, your beloved messenger Elizabeth, who is the re-embodiment of Martha, is with you, now choosing the better part, and to render her service in this day. It is never too late, precious ones, so long as the spark of life is there and hope, to change the course of your life and to fill it with immortality until your cup is running over with such joy that in the sharing of that joy the world is blessed. But it is not to merely honor my person or even to honor my victory that I ask you and bid you do. I ask you to honor the potential victory of yourselves. For as you would honor me, you will keep my commandments. As you would follow me in the regeneration, you yourself, as living examples for this age, will do me the highest honor to emulate my work and service. Some of you may choose otherwise, and choose to imitate Paolo Veronese, the ascended master, Paul the Venetian. You may choose a pathway of divine art. Some of you will choose music. Some of you will choose journalism and to bring forth words of comfort and understanding. Some of you are interested in the security of your country, and you may decide to serve in those avenues. Despise not the avenue of service you have elected to serve. If you desire to change that avenue of service, do not feel that it cannot be done. It may be done, blessed ones, but not through the power of man's despising the work that he does, but only through his acceptance of honoring that work and that service with divine dignity. Thus shall he bring joy into whatever service he renders, and make it easier for him to change into a higher walk from that which he presently is engaged in. I have desired this day, then, as a world teacher, to impart to you some comprehension and understanding of the need to recognize the myriad and diverse actions and activities of the great white brotherhood, of the various masters, and of those disciples here on earth who represent them. In this teaching is a key to certain freedom to yourself. Freedom in many ways, not only in false esteem and freedom from that, but in correct esteem, that you understand how to honor all men, in honor preferring one another, and understanding that honor, when rightly applied, is the power of God, recognizing the virtue of God in diverse ways, functioning in the service of the many and in the service of the few. I lovingly then place my arms of understanding of this around you, and I trust that in this embrace I shall impart to you this day a greater love for one another, that as you love me, you will keep my commandments, that as you love me, you will love one another, that as you love me, you will love life and feed my sheep. I thank you. O thou wondrous flame, pulsating upon the altar of God, how clear is thy light, and with what transcendence dost thou emanate thy light rays into the realm of human turmoil, and to bring surcease from distress to mankind caught in the net of delusion and those states of consciousness which are not only sub-divine but subhuman. Gracious One, the light of God that never fails, saluteth every heart, and in the awareness of the Father's love demands of life repayment for all debts, that the bestowal of infinite compassion upon the hungry ones may be made, that they may drink of the water of life freely. The hungers within the soul of man are very great, and there is no assuagement, precious ones, of that hunger, save the compassion and soul-satisfying emanation of the mighty light rays from the heart of God. When human distress seems to take its toll, it signifies to mankind the need to reverse the course and to find from the hand of God and the powers of light some assistance in overcoming those outer conditions which seem to assert themselves at the moment when they are least expected, and cause mankind distress in what otherwise would be a moment of triumph. Individuals often say, "Why am I struck down in my moment of triumph?" Why indeed, precious ones? In order that the soul itself may be filled with the grace of God. Bear in mind that God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. It is necessary then that human triumphs be short-lived, in order that men may pursue worthy goals. Goals that are transitory in themselves can never satisfy the immortal power of God and the infinite love that framed the universe. As men draw nigh unto God, they are willing to relinquish more and more their hold upon the mundane. But as they hold on to the mundane, they are willing to relinquish more and more their hold upon divine ideals. It is a fact, precious ones, that wherever your affection goeth, wherever your love is pointed, there go you. And when your love is misdirected into transitory realms, you will find yourself, through the power of mortal attachments, again and again suffering the pains of heartbreak. But when orientation is made to the eternal ideals, it is a cutting free from all those subdivine levels of comprehension, and a deliverance for mankind into the octaves of light, where the soul may function free of mortal limitations and enter into the joy of God. We know full well what pains there are to the flesh itself, and that to which the flesh is prone and prey to. We understand, for we also have worn mortal garb as ye do, and we know that at times the burden seems, when borne by human thought and feeling, to be almost impossible to be lifted, and it is as though it would tear apart the soul of man and split asunder body and spirit. Yet it is never the intention of God that is manifest in these moments of strain and stress. As your own beloved Saint Germain, precious ones, has told you again and again, it is the sense of struggle that makes the struggle. And when you let go and permit yourselves to enter in to the divine consciousness, paying no mind or heed to outer conditions, you are taking the first step to your freedom, and the step that, if it were irrevocable, would assure you entree into heavenly domains. But because the law of God and the law of love is never compelling of itself, but permits mankind to exercise free will, individuals who have begun their course pointed toward the light from time to time by reason of mortal discouragements and listening to the voices of mortal negation, will turn from the appointed course and the pathway of light back into old channels of surfeited mortal longings. In these experiments, if you can call them that, men and women are often dashed, as it were, against the pricks of life, and not only disturbed in conscience, but in consciousness. We then, who function in the higher domains, are determined that we will not be drawn down into a seething mortal vortex, into the volcano of human affection, but we are determined rather to function from the realm of the sacred fire, where the light of God runs its appointed course and is able to establish those permanent epochs of freedom which are the divine attitudes of grace shared by the ascended host and cosmic beings as the mighty tide of infinite life. Oh, how grateful we are for the release that accompanies the touch of infinite love to our beings and makes us aware by the power of mighty surges of affection from the Godhead of how that God, in his infinite affection for us, is constantly caring for us and raising us up into new dimensions of service, new dimensions of opportunity, and new dimensions of comprehension. Oh, precious ones, There is no ultimate anywhere in the universe except in the ultimate God. In the Godhead there is the ultimate, incomprehensible wonder of His love, never defined, for to define it is to lose it. But to accept it, as you do the air you breathe, with thoughts of gratitude and praise, is to amplify the power of light within the domain of yourself until you can feel the mighty currents and surges of infinite fire as the lifeblood flowing through your veins. Your spiritual body of service then becomes energized by cosmic rays and by the power of transmutation's flame, firing your spiritual ambitions and entering into a God determination within you to the very fiber and core of your being. This is an activity of cutting you free from outer expressions and those binding factors that have never in all eternity given you your freedom and never will. You must understand that your freedom is from the Godhead, and your freedom is the manifestation of the spiritual power and dynamics of life manifest within your thought and feeling world. So long as you are rooted and grounded in mortal longings and in the desires and affections of the flesh, and have turned your back, as it were, upon the infinite longings of Almighty God to teach you His law and to exalt you by His power, you will find that you will suffer and experience a series of ups and downs. One moment, because of the touch of the divine hand, you will be projected into realms of exaltation, and another moment, because of the downward pull of the energies and the ties to lower aspects of life, you will find yourself drawn once again into the vortex of human emotion and thought, into the vortex of human feeling. And thus, as a roller coaster going up and going down, you will experience these changes of altitude, of spiritual dimensions, which will not give you the peace which you crave and which you long for, and which is the lot of those saints who have divested themselves of mortal longings and have found only comfort in the divine. We recognize full well that these events cannot take place until individuals are ready to let go and to put their total faith in all of Almighty God's affection for them. Thou wilt not leave my soul in darkness, nor suffer me to see corruption. When men understand that phrase, and they understand this one with it, I am the resurrection and the life, they will then find that the power of life, which raises the planets and causes all nature to nod its head with grace and gratitude to the pure wind itself and to the mighty spirit of life, is also the life force within themselves, which like the sap of the trees runs its course of mighty God affection to exalt the soul of man and to purify his concepts, cleanse his mind of all dissonance and discord, break the patterns of inharmonies, and cause him to become not only an ascended being in due course of time, but perchance a cosmic being, a being to roam the cosmic everywhere that God is, and to accompany the spirit of the wind, the universal wind, which plays upon the mighty harp of life as cosmic zephyrs, and enables the music of the spheres to emanate the peace and harmony of God everywhere. You do not understand at this moment what it means to stand back in space and gaze upon aurora borealis, to see the play of the affection of God as fingers of light caress the infinite harps of universal love positioned in space. You do not know what it means to witness and behold great cosmic beings moving through the insular spatial highways, expressing gratitude to one another as they pass, and shedding forth beams of love which, like a comet whose tail sweeps the earth, causes mankind and all life everywhere to pulsate with a divine feeling so much higher and so buoyant that mankind can scarce realize at this point in their evolution what it means to enter into the joy of God. The joy of God is not a contradiction to the joy of men. It is an exaltation far, far above the joy of men. And therefore you must understand that with the same consciousness with which you appreciate outer activities that seem to give you temporary solace and act as a pacifier to the expanding soul, will come higher dimensions of light when the hands of God will teach you the majesty of the Divine One, not only in this day and age, but in all ages to come. For it has never been the divine intent to play the fool. It has never been the divine intent to deceive mankind or the creation of his heart and teach them the laws of life, only to snatch from them the expression of life through death and destructive activity, whereby the screen of the consciousness is blacked out as a television screen when you snap the switch or the current is off. It is the intention of God to flood your being with greater and greater exaltation, not only in this hour, but in all days to come. The nobility of God is stamped upon thy forehead, and in thy forehead is the mighty seal of life, which when thou understandest how to loose, will bring to thee a vision of the divine in all of his power and radiance. You must understand then that the energy of life is the mighty tide of God expression, seeking to have you by divine wisdom, by divine omniscience, harness the energies of the universe and create those complexes which will glorify God and all life. Men imagine, gracious ones, in the vanity of their own expression, that in heavenly places men and women sit and play constantly to the boredom of the universe upon golden harps. Let me tell you that one visit to celestial realms, to hear the tone of those harps, to understand the melody which they express, to understand how to move from the divine within the heart to an expression of those great evocations of praise to God, in the hands themselves, that the strings may vibrate in cosmic resonance, to cause the universe itself to expand still farther in its awareness of the great creativity of God, is to cause mankind to experience a joy beyond that which anyone has ever envisioned in their wildest human imaginations. It is to bring to mankind an awareness, a breathing, pulsating, vibrant expression that is the fullness of the Godhead at any given time made manifest in their own life expression. Do you see, precious ones, I am referencing to you a bringing up of those areas of consciousness which are in the valleys, to the point where you can vibrate in consonance with God and with the creative vibration which framed the world. Thus you become co-creators of the destiny of planets, stars, suns, and moons. You become the creator of the destiny of worlds yet unborn, and you fulfill the intent of God to give you dominion not only over the earth, but over all life everywhere, and share it with the joy of the angels and the speed of light, as cosmic majesty is unfolded before your vision everywhere, and you understand the scion of God's love is yourself. When you understand that, you no longer can permit lesser forces to use your consciousness, and the reign of evil in man's consciousness is ended. It does not matter then what may assail you, what mortal condition may seem to have dominion and power in your world. You will instantly understand how to connect directly with your God source and evoke from that God source a blue flame ray of such piercing intensity as to cause all dissonant forces to bow before you. The devils will indeed tremble. The demons will flee your footsteps, and you will find that you are children of the Most High God, masters of destiny, masters of light, and children of the dawn. I come to you then this hour to make you aware of the perils of the earth and the children of the earth, who by their constant irritating expressions do generate in elemental life those manifestations of human discord which manifest as flood, as famine, as discord, as unrest among peoples of continents, as poverty, as affliction, as distress, as confusion, and as a loss of love for one another. If men and women throughout the world will read the signs of these times, they will perceive that you are now in the mode of expression where you can either go upward or downward into the greatest debacle of human reason and human disprogress that has ever manifested, or upward into the greatest era of cosmic grace and love. The key of love, the golden key, thought form of the year dispensed to you from the hand of God, is certainly the means to power and to freedom, the means to peace and plenty for the world. For nature will obey our voice. And when you become identified with the powers of nature and key into the great love ray of nature, you can speak as Jesus did, saying, "Peace, be still," and the elements will obey your voice. You can do as St. Francis did, stand gazing up at the birds and say unto them and to the air, "Brother air, thou art indeed a part of me. Brother birds, you are indeed a part of me." Fly then in the sign of the cross, and let men know the dominance of God over nature. "I am the controlling force of all nature," is a mantra which you can utter when you purify your worlds with such tremendous power that storms, floods, and hurricanes will obey your voice. You can speak to earthquakes as you would speak to a recalcitrant or tired child, and nature will obey. The tiny elemental beings will rush with joy and alacrity to respond to the vibratory action of love. Have you heard how that savage beasts have obeyed the voice of men simply because of the great love ray which proceeded out of the heart of that one when the invocation was made? Understand then that a great intensity is required, and the love which must be focused within the domain of mind and heart is not an ordinary love such as you imagine. It is not the mere summoning of mental power whereby you have a feeling of love, but it is an entering into the infinite rays of compassion from God's own heart, that you be plugged in to the great human divine dynamo. And I have referenced here human first, because that creation which is born here is the first creation, which is the creation of man, the first Adam that must come into action in the individual world and then become the divine. The human divine being the pathway of expression. The divine first descending into the human expression as embryonic individuality, and then summoning from universal love the power of the divine dynamo that will cause all nature to obey that individualized aspect of God. Now I know that perhaps some of you may have thought I erred when I made that first statement, but I wish to hasten to assure you that even this messenger was for a moment startled at my expression. But now that I have explained it, he understands exactly what I am referencing, and he understands that there first must come into manifestation the physical form, so that individuality may achieve its pathway of expression here below, and then be raised through the power of Christ's attitude until the supranormal manifestation of divine cosmic control vested in the individual is totally made manifest there, and that one has entered into the very heart of God, and God expresses joyously through that individual aspect of himself, raised now out of the density of human magnitudes to the divine magnitudes which are the full expression of God. I say to every one of you, you ought to snap your fingers at all human folly. You ought to snap your fingers at all human vibratory actions that have held you in bondage and slavery for so long. And you ought to say to that power, you have no power. Your day is done. You must now obey the voice of the Holy One of Israel. All that which is real about yourself, and no longer hearken to the voice of that which is human dissonance and is not real at all, but only a figment of your mortal imagination. This accounts for the times that come to you occasionally, blessed ones, when you seem to be experiencing a feeling of unreality, and you ask yourselves as to whether or not you are in some form of trance or hypnotic state. You ask yourself what is occurring that is causing you to feel so weary and so wearied. Precious ones, these conditions are simply human modes of consciousness, as individuals bored with their own attitudes of life expression find themselves entering into a pattern of mortal hysteria, which causes them great grief and disorientation. If they will only understand that they are divinely vested by Almighty God with the power of His sun radiance, and that is their only and sole reality, they will soon gravitate to an understanding of cosmic triumph and victory, and mortal attitudes of mind will yield to the great God flame within. And the feeling of disorientation and distress, the feeling of mortal hysteria and unrest, will come into obedience to the great God flame within. Do you know what it means, precious ones, to speak to the pulsating flame of life that is within yourself and see that flame leap into obedience? Well, precious ones, hitherto the flame itself has provided the energy for negative expression which you have created, and you have actually, according to a mortal expression, permitted the tail to wag the dog of your manifestation, and you have functioned in human dimensions to your own hurt and to the hurt of your fellow men. Now the day is over. Night is drawing nigh, and this night, precious ones, which is a period of darkness known as the obscure night, is coming to many among mankind in order to make them hunger for the first rays of the breaking dawn. In this state of unrest civilization is now experiencing, they are being taught many lessons which they need, and I am certain that many of you are often disturbed by the outer appearance world. Well, let me tell you, precious ones, that the ancient cry that came forth to the cities of old, saying, "It is the midnight hour, and all is well," ought to be understood by you, because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and there is no possibility of life itself coming under the domination of these powers of outer conditions. Not permanently, gracious ones, for individuals only occupy space upon this planet in one mortal embodiment, which is very brief indeed. And during that space, while Adolf Hitler and others are perfect examples of the great destructive activity that can be done by one life stream, I am certain that this is superseded by the manifestation of the Lord Christ and Gautama, who have touched the world with their God flame and have changed the centuries having reflected the gilded glory of their eternal and immortal radiance, which can never, never, never in all eternity be shaken or altered, because the pages of time and eternity are gilded by the lives of such as these. Know then that the divine affection is the supreme radiance of God and enjoyment thereof manifesting in an individual's life. In other words, gracious ones, the Most High God joys to express in you and rejoices as you open the door for His cosmic expression. But oh, beware of psychic activity, gracious ones, which is only the activity of mortal episodes lived and relived in the past by individuals. There are so many individuals that are overly concerned with their own previous manifestations and embodiments that they cannot recognize that their prime interest ought to be the pages of the future, whereby the expressions which they are now making will cast their pictures ahead upon the screen of life to come. And therefore the present day is the hour of opportunity when every thought and feeling and mode ought to be examined by the individual, so that that individual can make certain that the pages of the future will reflect his victory and triumph, his release and freedom, and that he will effect for himself the God intent in manifestation. I tell you, it is a frightening thing, precious ones, when you consider what has happened as a result of the spiritualistic activity brought forth by beloved Morya and Kuthumi in their great love ray attempt to give mankind faith that death was not real. The beloved masters did proceed to enter into a communion and pact with the karmic board, whereby a certain spiritualistic activity back in the 1800s was brought forth, and the intent and purpose of that activity was in order that mankind might have faith in the survival of the soul. But I want to tell every one of you here tonight that that activity became aborted, and it proved to be a Pandora's box, whereby many nefarious powers of darkness risen from the pits of shame came forth and functioned, masquerading themselves to be spiritual teachers and taking over those mediums who permitted them to express through them until the aspects of unreliability and the actual rupture in the skin of the earth's evolution became so intensified and dark that aspects of spiritual leprosy were spread abroad throughout the world, and the decadence and stench thereof became an abomination in the eyes of heaven. Now I tell you that the Christ radiance is not so. The Christ radiance is joyous, it is buoyant, it is happy. And I am certain that as you have come into this building and felt the buoyancy and the joy of the individuals who occupy these premises, when you have felt the great angelic power and the cosmic radiance that is manifesting here, I am certain that you will recognize that there is no spiritualistic activity here, but only a pure spiritual activity of the pure consciousness of God emanating through these messengers and bringing you a breathing awareness of our every word and thought, giving you such instruction as is unparalleled in the history of this planet, and with the supreme intent of cutting you free from all fetters that have bound you and kept you in bondage throughout the centuries. We say, let us spell the death knell of all of those conditions that have bound men. Let us make a new record then that will cause men to proceed without fear, to feed their souls so dear, and recognize that Saint Germain and I am here. We say, arise and gaze upon the skies. Angelic hosts are blazing there. The star of Christ appears, and Buddha dear endears the hearts of all. To spiritual law the holy call. I am thy all, the flame of truth, the flame of victory for all youth. I vivify the pattern pure. I express the arms of God secure. You are his beloved ones. You are his beloved sons. Thank you. Won't you please be seated? Now, gracious ones, we are about to perform many services for you this night, for ours is an action of the entire spirit of the Great White Brotherhood. And what men do not know about the activity of the Great White Brotherhood would make a far larger dossier than what men do claim and profess to know. We have heard that some individuals have made the statement that this activity is not connected with the Great White Brotherhood, simply because they have used the expression in some of their literature that they are, in effect, a branch connected with the Great White Brotherhood. Well, let me tell you that if those individuals who are not here tonight and have made those statements would be here, they would have something to think about in just simply the manifestation of my own dictation. Nevertheless, precious ones, they manage to find themselves hither and yon upon the planet. They are like fireflies that have lost their fire. They seem to feel the need to toast their shins upon the fires of everyone else, and they travel hither and yon. Such as these are referenced in the Scriptures in the New Testament as wandering stars to whom is reserved the mist of darkness forever. They are referenced also as those who creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, ever learning but never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. For the truth is purity and expression, and the truth is divine direction. Men must understand then that the great God flame within themselves was given to them for a purpose, to utilize its energy for simple, sensual pleasures, repeated century after century, without attention upon their divine source, is a waste indeed of the precious ointment of life. It is a pouring out of that ointment upon the dry sands. It was pointed out to you earlier, and you must understand then that the similes we bring forth and the metaphors of which we speak are symbols to quicken in consciousness among you all awareness of the infinite love that God bears for you all, so that you yourselves may have ample opportunity in time to make provision for your own heart flames, to expand by your own directed will, consciously directed from within yourself, because of the great hunger you feel for reunion with the divine spark within. What a pity to neglect the divine spark and pay attention to all the other fireflies that are flitting around the world and saying, "See me, see me, see me, I am great." This, of course, is easily unmasked in our octave, for we instantly see the vibratory action of the human who desires to make of himself a cosmic display, and usually burns himself out with one grand exertion, only to have to summon energy for centuries to pay for the great conflagration and display of fireworks which he makes over his poor sagging ego as it seeks to divest itself of feelings of guilt for its own treatment of life in the past by bolstering itself in one given portion of time in order that it may flit before its fellow men to exhibit to them its own foolishness and lack of cosmic perspicacity. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention upon my words, for vanity is the name of man, and vanity has brought him into bondage through all the centuries and always will. But the power of God, the power of the consciousness of which I am, will make mankind understand the power that I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me. Therefore men will understand the need to summon from their own divine presence the power of God's will, so that his will reinforce sagging mortal will and intensify the action of the divine soul in man. Then good will flourish, and the garden of the Lord will also flourish all around you. Suddenly you will find that in the midst of the Garden of Eden, the Eden within, from which the word hedon comes, and hedon or a hedonist is one who loves pleasure. There you will understand then is the full measure of cosmic pleasure. And you will also understand that within the garden springs forth the tree of life, and you must actually partake of the fruit of the tree of life, which is God. God's life, expressing through you, will bring to an end all human discord and human patterns, but will cause the life force that has inhabited those patterns and robbed you of energy to spring forth and bring forth simultaneously an activity of cosmic service right at the same time simultaneously while you are bringing forth great assistance to the evolutions of the earth. I have often functioned simultaneously on two dimensions, seeking to give mankind the fullness of that spirit of accord, which we in our octave call concord, with the Eternal Father's purposes. For the spirit of divine concord is the spirit of infinite compassion that like a whirlwind will transform the consciousness of man. Therefore I caught a thought from this audience, oh, but the way I have lived. Well, let me tell you, precious one, it does not matter how you have lived before, if at this moment you will call to me and say, beloved great divine director, all that has gone before, I wish to abrogate. I wish to consummate my life in God's direction. I wish to move forward. I wish to progress. I assure you that I will answer you. And if necessary, I will personally appear before the karmic board on your behalf. And I will give you a power of love, which is a divine magnet, to draw you into a realm of light, which will enable you to take advantage of the whirlwind activity of the Lord God of hosts that can transform a man from a mere man into a saint almost overnight. You may think that this cannot be handled in the human octave, and experiences and results may sometimes seem to prove to reinforce your own negativity. But let me assure you that if you will summon enough faith and will perform this activity and call as I have outlined it, without doubt, you are going to find that you will be magnetized by the great ascended host and drawn closer to the great whirlpool of infinite grace. You will be taken down into that and immersed in that activity of the sacred fire. And you will find, as St. Paul did on the road to Damascus, that the scales will drop from your eyes, and your former vision of yourself will change, and you will realize the divine vision of Almighty God. Oh, the road to Damascus is very wonderful, precious ones, for it speaks to mankind of the great cosmic Christ, and the words, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? Come to mankind individually along the road to Damascus. And men are blinded by the sudden burst of the heavenly light, and they can scarcely see which direction they are going. And the words, it is hard for thee to kick against the pricks, come to mankind individually, and he understands that he has been struggling all the while to try to escape his cosmic destiny. Yet, as in Francis Townsend's Hound of Heaven, mankind have been pursued by the divine self and the spark of that cosmic individuality that is their own reality, until they can feel the hot breath of the Hound of Heaven on the very back of their neck, warning them and warning them again and again to pursue cosmic virtue and ideals. This is the infinite love of God, which pursues mankind even into the dens of iniquity, which gives him his portion and his allotment, as the prodigal who requests it and goeth into density and form, and then calls forth when caught in the traps of mortal domain, "Be free, come home, I am your father." And the welcome mat is out, and individuals realize that the love of God is without human temporality, without human temperamentality, without human sensuality, but only desires to be the great giver of grace to all. Gracious ones, over the world a pall of darkness hurls itself. The dangers of the world at present are certainly before your consciousness. Consider the perils of this age. If you are able to survive the fearsome aspects of mortal battle, if the world is able to keep its stability and to keep from hurling the frightful powers of atomic energy upon one another, then there is the peril of the youth of the world and the discord which they are manifesting. If you fail to be destroyed by the jaws of atomic energy, then there is the destruction of civilization by the acceptance of dialectic materialism by the youth of the world. Therefore the peril is very great, and I cannot disabuse your minds of that, try as I would. For the die has been hard cast in human consciousness. Thus I speak to the remnant upon this planet. Thus I speak to the remnant who respond to God, and I say, yours is the portion of the spiritual Israel. To you the promises ancient and untarnished are given. To you is the path of salvation that will make of earth a heaven. I urge then that you understand the need to uphold our precepts. I urge you to understand the need to uphold this activity by light and an action of light, by holy prayer, by virtue externalized in you as God cares for you and loves you through and through. I urge you to understand the need to extend His power and pressure of light to the world with God's speed. There is no time to delay. I tell you, this battle is more than just a skirmish fray. It is the intent of hordes of darkness, terrible to witness and behold, who seek to enslave all that is noble, all that is gold, wisdom from on high. They seek to plagiarize and terrify, to cause mankind to hold the sense of fear, to die. Let me tell you then, the cosmic egg is born. The cosmic egg is born. The cosmic egg is born. And new universes seek expression then. Let not this one fail because of sinful men. For purity from God, a ray of brightest hue, illumines too the understanding few, the mighty power of ancient age, the power of God that manifested on Lemuria's page, that caused Atlantis to rise so high and understand the depth of God's wisdom then so nigh before the fall. And yet the priests of darkness there did bear a feeling of oppression which filled the air and caused mankind to forget the need for prayer and held them in a bondage terrible and and frightful in all of its outpicturing of human discord and negativity. The rumblings of that continent were great, and the spiritual powers of life withdrew. But, O gracious ones, let not this age become so wretched and in such despair, but let all men understand the need to care for brother and for sister everywhere. One great host of light I make tonight of all mankind. I see them as made of holy substance pure, God kind. They are the children of the sun. Each and every one beholds the radiance fair of God, of Son, of holy angel there, entertaining the spirits of universal love. They yearn to know the hopes of God above. They will not turn from Word of God so rare to hear the bondage, discord, jangle of mortality in ear. They seek the Word embodied in themselves, lost now many a century past. They seek to expand that voice within, to their hearts, the deity to clasp. I am thyself in action here below. I direct the mighty tides of energy to flow. I say, make bold the path to God's own hand and consciousness. Let not the power of mortal reason stand to rule. This makes of life a human fool. Rather, pass thy consciousness on high, and hear the deathless spirit of thy God say, neath my rod I quicken sons anew. They are the flaming few, who in every age will rejuvenate the screen of life with vibrant figures bold. They are the few who have within their hand and hold the key to freedom and to peace. Let them then inherit earth so fine. They will the souls of men refine. Enter thou then into the joy of thy Lord. The stairway is before thee now. The key is that thou to life must bow, to God alone. All one must men become, and then within their heart the radiant sun, by expansion's flame, will join heart to heart, and cause the blessed race of golden age to start. I am thy flame, thy God power in God's name. I am thy fame, which is the flame of God bestowing comfort to you all. I am the power of faith for which you call. Make bold my way, let nothing now divert, for you must understand the need to heal all human hurt, and do it now, not next year. Tomorrow's sun may never come for thee. If you fear to do his will for all eternity, make vow now then, and see the way that's clear. His holy light illumines all right here, and if you hold your faith in that entrenched virtue of the Lord, you will find his love is ever more and more adored, expanding joy and passing to each heart the peace that is the current from the start of life, and life I am. So direct the virtue in thyself, so perfect the majesty of self, so understand the word, the law, I am thyself for all. You must then behold in all thyself, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And at this point, I want to call to your attention the meaning of the Golden Rule. For many individuals do not realize that the Golden Rule is the ascended master law of infinite compassion. They do not understand that that was the simplest expression which could ever be coined by the ascended masters, and that it was released to the earth, and is the full measure of cosmic perfection for every heart when practiced, and would release mankind from the need for courts of law, whereby one individual does bring another individual before the court and hail him before the judge, because there is no compassion in their heart to reach one another in an agreement that is just. Do you see then the need to shake from your garments all your earthly dust, and bear confusion now, almost a spite, that you may win the cosmic fight? Love God, love men in his image pure, but love not that which makes them so insecure, for that is evil, energy veiled before the face of God. Let lightning power from his heart shatter that veil and rent the veil in twain. Thus you shall not live your life in vain, but make each moment count for God. Mileposts along the heavenly road will flit by, and as time passes, you will know you cannot die, for you are so God identified that God could not desert you if he would. This, I hope, will be understood. And in that faith that makes you one with God, you will come lovingly beneath his rod and say, O God, take me. I am thyself, I see, and I must needs to be thyself in action fair. All else is vanity's expression there. I want thee more than all the world. I want o'er my head the Christly banner unfurled, for I am thy child. In all the world I am thy child. Where'er I go, down here below, thou goest with me. By my side thou walkest. Through my voice thou talkest. In my heart communion bright shows me ever new delight. And in the scenes appearing there I see the wonder of a future fair, not as men have thought 'twould be, but as it is. All this I see, not just in time, but in the future. All that one day all shall know. Precious ones, although I had a great epoch, a revelation to bear thee this night, because of a certain activity of certain individuals who feel a certain weariness, I will defer from releasing that information, hoping that the disappointment of those who came to hear this revelation will cause the individuals who brought this about to correct the wrong thought pattern in themselves. And if this be done on another occasion neath this sun, I shall make a prayer that all may hear my voice without fear. You are all God's children. Be not weary in well-doing, for you have often in times past given your energy for a more foolish purpose than to hear my word. But for the sake of a few whose devotion is exemplary, I wish to assure you that much revelation on what I have already said can be imparted. But I will say this one word to amend my statement before. I will say that there is great danger to the world at this moment in China. there is a great activity taking place there, not from the divine level, but from a level of the black magicians who have enslaved the world many times in the past. The activity in China is a terrible threat to the people of America, and the intelligence branches of this country are not aware at this moment of that which I speak. The threat is so dire that only a short time ago this messenger stood here and, acting from higher direction, made a call which saved America from destruction. Now then, once again, the forces of darkness are marshaling themselves to attack the children of the light and to destroy the pathway of freedom that America is. This peril must be averted from your nation and from all the nations who love freedom. But it means that you must, one and all, do all in your power to intensify the vibratory action of that which the ascended masters have called for. There has not been nearly enough sacrifice made by the people for the divine purposes. Individuals have again and again thought selfishly of their own temporal life from day to day, and they have considered what they should eat and what they should wear, and they have ignored spiritual garments and spiritual food. It is up to you then, who are illumined, to be the examples for this age by your activity and its devotion, by that which you shall do in God's name and for His purposes. You are the last and the best hope of heaven for mankind. I trust that you shall keep the eternal light blazing without fail over the earth. We guarantee you that we shall respond to your calls. We shall take note of every activity that you do for the light, and never shall we fail to ignore those calls when they come from a gracious, loving heart with a full intention of bestowing upon mankind the fullness of divine grace. I say to you all, let the activities of light prevail, and let the power of darkness fall from the consciousness of men and remain of no effect, nullified by the activity of light in its mighty release from the heart of God. I say to you, in the name of the living Christ, awake and remain awake and alert. Awake and remain no longer complacent. Awake and hold thyself for God's own sake, effective instruments in His hand. He will wield thee as an angel would wield a cosmic sword, and the earth shall flourish in harmony and love because of thee, and not in spite of thee. For mankind misuse that word, as Saint Germain told you long ago, and they use that word as a manifestation of vicious energy. This must cease, and love must prevail everywhere. For love is indeed the key that unlocks the doorway universal, the great golden door, which was referenced in Emma Lazarus' poem within the Bartholdi statue of liberty. Let liberty prevail! Let freedom assail the bastions of man's density! I thank you. camels kneel. The joy bells are ringing, and in our retreat at Darjeeling, the love ray is singing the melody of infinity, directs the heart to rise. The melody of infinity is beamed from holy sky. I am thy flame, thy hope, thy prayer. The first ray of the Lord is there within thy heart, expanding now. Its love and light will ever bow to God's own print, the touch of hand. Divine expression fills this land, and thus I offer benediction's power, the love of God, the ray of power. So blue, so true, so pure, 'tis you expressing through myself. I act as Lord of love's first ray, to take the pain from hearts away, and with severe expression bold, I hold the light of heavenly gold, infinite wisdom, flaming then. The pink ray expands with blue, and then transmutation for the few expands the many to free. I am thyself in action for eternity. The hosts at Darjeeling thank thee, and the camels continue to kneel as the lower expressions of life carry the burdens of the higher expressions of life. For there is no servility, but only the opportunity to raise the life expressions in their myriad manifestations. Bear with me, for soon you shall be free from radiation strong, and enter in to higher song if you care to retain the flavor of the Lord. The world awaits, and with it, are you bored? 'Twould be a good thing, methinks, if at times you would cease to drink of all the goodliness of earth and feel the weight of cosmic worth within thy hand. It is a key that life commands. Be free, be free, be free. O thou great divine director, majestic were thy words. We are grateful for thy presence in the universe, and for the courage which like a lion did express a roar of worlds afar. Thou didst inflame our heart as radiance flooded from thy star. Come now and benediction make. Let earth her vanity forsake, and take the joy that is the Lord's, to be adored forevermore. O presence great, divine self renew our covenant for the sacred few, that the Brotherhood in white may take delight tonight by initiating many of these blessed chelas into the octaves of power and peace and service, bold, made for God, the ancient one of old. Free mankind from fear and every tear, and let them know that God is here, His love is near, His flame so great will triumph make for all the expressions of the Lord. Grace, grace, O grace adored. I thank thee, and I call forth the benediction of the holy seven Kumaras upon all that are here. As each flame is extinguished upon this altar, a flame shall rise, a measure high within every individual in this room who will believe and receive this message that shall chase all gloom and make them know that God is here and know the way to cast out fear. Watch then and behold and see how God will be to thee, not only now but for eternity. Accept the flame within thy heart that makes a new and fresh start. Right now, accept it. As I extinguish this one flame, a pulsing fire surges through thee in God's name. And when the 14 candles rare have flashed their fire through thyself right here, you shall know a freedom for this hour. Whether you hold it or not will be determined by the power of your intent to hold it.